Recently, Angry Joe released a rant video about Cyberpunk 2077, calling it a buggy, glitchy mess. I'm going to talk about how some of these complaints are wrong, or how they're at the very least inaccurate. Because games are rarely as terrible or as good as people make them out to be. So one of the first things he talks about is the assets not loading in correctly. During your playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077, this will actually largely depend on which system you're playing it on, whether it's the Xbox, the PlayStation 4 or 5, or a PC. Some of the clips Joe shows for this part of his complaint aren't entirely accurate, because most of the game, the assets and textures will load in completely fine. It's only here or there that it looks like you're playing Roblox for a little bit and you'll get some really low poly textures. This seems to be a little more apparent on consoles than on the PC, but during my PC playthrough, I didn't have too many issues with this at all. The second thing Joe talks about is that a lot of these glitches are immersion breaking. Now, this definitely can be jarring, especially when it happens with quests, important NPCs, and objectives. But these glitches rarely happen, and a lot of the small graphical errors that occur are rarely noticeable, or they add a lot of enjoyment unintentionally to the game. Joe brought up some good points about how glitches and bugs happen often enough to really break up your flow of gameplay. But from what I saw during his rant, it seemed that Joe just had an especially buggy run. And I don't quite think that all of his criticisms are quite valid based on one playthrough. And I know that for many other gamers, the playthroughs have been much smoother than his, on average. Suffice to say, Joe's criticism of the game is well-founded, but it tends to be overly acute and harsh on aspects of the game that aren't present the majority of the time.